Hello and welcome to What the F Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditas. Let's get to it. It's Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Welcome to day 147. The number of confirmed U.S. deaths from COVID-19 surpassed 600,000, 15 months since the onset of the pandemic. The United States COVID-19 death toll is more than 200 times the number of lives lost on September 11th, and higher than the number of American soldiers killed in combat during the Vietnam War, World War I, and World War II combined. The U.S. is currently averaging 375 COVID-19 deaths per day, down from more than 3,000 per day in January and reaching their lowest point since March 2020, due to the availability of effective vaccines. More than half of the U.S. population has now received at least one shot of COVID-19 vaccine, and 43% of the population is fully vaccinated. The White House, meanwhile, plans to host a July 4th Independence from the Virus bash, as the CDC declared the so-called Delta variant, which was first detected in India, a variant of concern. The Delta variant now accounts for 9.9% of cases in the United States. Meanwhile, a National Institutes of Health study suggests that the coronavirus may have been circulating in the United States as early as December 24, 2019, weeks before the first confirmed infection in the country. 9 people who had donated blood between January 2nd and March 18, 2020, tested positive for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, this according to the NIH report. Moving on, the FBI warned lawmakers that QAnon digital soldiers could be compelled to shift toward engaging in real-world violence as they come to no longer trust the plan. Instead of abandoning the conspiracy theory after QAnon predictions failed to materialize, an FBI threat assessment concluded that followers may seek to harm perceived members of the cabal, such as Democrats and other political opposition, as they take control of the movement. The unclassified assessment says the participation of some domestic violent extremists who are also self-identified QAnon adherents in the violent siege on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th underscores how the current environment likely will continue to act as a catalyst for some to begin accepting the legitimacy of violent action. Meanwhile, the White House released a national strategy devoted to addressing domestic terrorism. The 32-page strategy document calls for increased funding for the DOJ and FBI to hire analysts, investigators, and prosecutors. It also calls for improved information sharing between the federal government and state and local partners, as well as with social media companies, and to address the long-term drivers of domestic terrorism like systemic racism. In introducing the document, Biden said, "We cannot ignore this threat or wish it away. Preventing domestic terrorism and reducing the factors that fuel it demand a multifaceted response across the federal government and beyond." Moving on, new emails show that Trump pressured top Justice Department officials to challenge his election loss to Biden and to investigate debunked conspiracy theories and baseless claims of voter fraud. The emails were sent between December 2020 and early January 2021, and Trump and his aides, including White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, pressured then-acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen to investigate unsubstantiated claims that the 2020 election had been stolen. The documents were released by the House Oversight Committee, and they also detail how an hour before Trump announced that Bill Barr would be stepping down as AG, Trump and his staff began pressuring Rosen, Barr's eventual replacement, to embrace Trump's claims of voter fraud and to have the Justice Department investigate them. The House Oversight and Reform Committee have asked Meadows and several former DOJ officials to testify about these efforts to advance unsubstantiated allegations of voter fraud. Meanwhile, a federal judge will allow the Justice Department to keep secret part of the memo used to back then-Attorney General William Barr's decision not to charge Trump with obstruction of justice. Judge Amy Berman Jackson previously ordered the DOJ to release the entire memo, which was used in March 2019 to justify not charging Trump. Judge Jackson accused Barr of misleading the court about Mueller's findings in the Russia investigation. While Attorney General Merrick Garland has already released Section 1 of the memo, the Justice Department has asked to appeal the release of the memo's Section 2. Jackson agreed to allow the DOJ to keep Section 2 secret while they appeal. And finally, the Senate confirmed Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the District of Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals in a 53-44 vote. Jackson is the first black woman confirmed to an appellate court in a decade and is one of only 5 black female circuit court judges currently serving. She fills the vacancy left by Attorney General Merrick Garland, who served on the bench for 24 years. Jackson is considered a top contender to be appointed to the Supreme Court. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.